In today's episode of the Pathwing Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Jacob Curtis, and he's hailing over from the team at Loose. He's an account executive over there, and basically what they do is they help e-commerce companies to get a competitive edge, I would say. They provide competitor insights and product development insights, and basically just giving you a full picture on what is important for your e-commerce journey. So yeah, let's deep dive into that in detail. I'm pretty sure Jacob can give us a much better explanation of what I just did. So basically, Jacob, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
Of course. Yeah. So for everybody who hasn't heard about Loose yet, maybe give us a 360 overview, what the product is all about.
Yeah, of course. So Loose, we were started about 18 months ago, and it was built as a competitive intelligence platform, kind of as you alluded to. So the origin story really kind of came from our founder, Josh, who's our CEO, whose wife runs an e-commerce brand here locally. We're based in Salt Lake City that does women's dancewear. And so he was working at a different tech company, and he was, did a lot of, worked a lot in data and machine learning and so forth. And so he actually just started to do some research projects for them on their competitors and was shocked at the amount of data. And that's kind of where the whole idea was born. So essentially what we're doing is we are tracking competitor sales data from e-commerce sites by tracking inventory quantities. So we're tracking over, now today we're tracking over 150,000 sites down to the SKU level with daily sales, where you can then see, for brands in adjacent spaces or your direct competitors, what products, styles, colors, sizes, and so forth are moving from those brands to then help inform both on the marketing side and performance marketing down to product development and product categories and benchmarking. And that's kind of what we do. And, we've found a lot of success there, and I've really loved the insights that we've found.
Very cool. No, that gives us a very clear picture. Like, what would you say, who are the types of businesses that leverage the most? Do they need to have a certain size for Loose for them to, be very helpful? Or is it, can it even be, smaller e-commerce providers that leverage the data effectively? Where do you see sort of a sweet spot?
Yeah, great question. I've actually found that it's not as much to do with size as it is with the growth capacity. And so really what that's, we work with on the large size, brands like Rhone or True Religion, 100 million or billion-dollar brands, all the way down to we're working with, independent users who are launching Shopify brands and really want to get into, want analytics and data to really drive some of those decisions they make. And so we've found the most success to be really growth-driven individuals in apparel or CPGs or beauty and cosmetics. Kind of in those spaces, we found the most success with, high growth individuals and brands.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, what's their journey looking like? Like, how do these folks actually getting to know Loose? Like, maybe tell us a little bit about sort of the client acquisition channels that you guys leverage for them to getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. Lucas, I've listened to a number of your podcasts. A lot of things come up. We hear attribution comes up quite a bit, performance marketing and so forth. And some of those are a little bit more saturated markets where you're not actually, it's the clients you already know have some level of interest in the solution. And it's just a matter of, why are we better? Or what's our competitive edge? A really unique challenge that we face is we're pretty unique in the software space, in the sense of there's not many brands out there that are providing e-commerce sales data from your competitors. Now, on the large side, there's brands kind of that are more legacy brands like Nielsen or NPD, where you're looking at, $100,000 plus contracts where very few brands even have the bandwidth or the budget to purchase those. And given kind of this unique space that we're in, what I've actually found is convincing people that we have what we say we have is the most difficult part of our journey. That we get a lot of people who, we are doing a lot of cold outreach and people respond to us and say, there's no way that you're doing this, or this must be illegal, or, there's any number of responses saying, that we don't believe that you have what you say we have. So what we've actually found is the most difficult step for us is actually getting people on a demo. But once we actually get them there, it's a pretty easy value prop in the sense of, look, these e-commerce leaders are extremely intelligent. They've built phenomenal brands and they're incredibly creative. They're incredibly, analytics driven. It's just a matter of them of providing the right tools to them to help them grow. And so once they get into our data sets and, see it and trust the accuracy of it, there's really a lot of value there. So to kind of answer your question, that was a long-winded response, but yeah, we've once we can really hammer down and prove the value that we can drive, just even in a product demo, that's where we kind of have found the most success.
It's very cool because what you're describing is like something that we've seen on the show for products that have very extraordinary results that are kind of a very new angle to the market. And out of a sudden, the problem is believability at some point, right?
Exactly.
At the initial step. How do you guys, and let's hone in on that a little bit, like when you're saying cold outreach, like what have you learned? Like what is a good angle? What are you guys doing in order to, get over that hurdle when you're doing the outreach?
Yeah, it's really come down to actually just research. I want to give a lot of props and praise to our SDR team who really kind of manage and oversee all that cold outreach. We expect a lot of them in the sense of when we're reaching out to a brand, it's no longer just, hey, see your competitor sales data. But what we found to be the most effective is a lot of brand research saying, hey, you have to really understand the brand you're targeting and you have to understand who they would be interested in seeing. And so when we reach out, if we're reaching out to Fabletics, it's really interesting because just talking about hypothetically what we could do for Fabletics has not worked. But when we get down to brass tacks and say, hey, do you want to know what Lululemon's top selling product was in the month of June? Or do you want to see what Fiori's most recent product launch how that's performed in the last couple of weeks in swimwear? That's where we get a lot of response, where it's like when we know the brand and we know the brands that they might be interested in that are in adjacent spaces or direct competitors and can provide some insights, that's where we really pique the curiosity. And that's where we found the most success in terms of, getting the right people on the demos.
That makes sense. Did you found to be then sort of you actually lead them into an experience where they can see this data, or is it more like you get them into a conversation? Because like we've been on the show talking a lot about these outbound strategies as well. And then in the end, it's always like, what is the goal in the end, right? Is it a conversation? Is it to drive them into an experience? Like, would they actually get and see, let's say, month's sales from June, or what would
Yeah. And so, and really what we've done, Lucas, is our goal has been getting people in a product demo. We want to provide some value, even if they choose not to move forward as a customer, just because we want to really curate and kind of build that, build that rapport and build that relationship. Because as we found, just this last week, I've had a brand that I was working with 8 months ago, had a great experience and it wasn't the right time, come back and say, hey, we're ready to buy. And so it's like, how can we kind of cultivate that relationship? What we found is we don't really do on that first call a generic product demo, because what we want is, if I get on, let's take the Fabletics example for to continue. If I get on and you're the VP of merchandising at Fabletics, Lucas, I don't want to show you data that might not be that interesting to you or might not be that relevant. So it really starts, we really focus on discovery. Yeah. And so we're saying, hey, Lucas, tell me about your brand. Where are you currently at? Where do you see as the biggest, growth opportunities for your brand? Are there new categories you're looking at? Or who are some new players in the space that you're curious of? And as we start to understand what you want to do and what your goals are in your role, and you tell me some brands that you're focused on and do that, we actually build out each product demo very specifically so that I can then come back and say, hey, you told me that you're looking at, men's shirts, and that's a really, high priority for your brand right now. I pulled a bunch of data from 3 relevant brands in your space. Here's a couple weeks of sales data, some styles and so forth there. And I'm actually using our solution to basically present a solution to your problem. And then from there, it's really easy for them to say, hey, I can see the value of data. I can trust the accuracy of it. And then it's really easy for me to make a determination. Does this provide the value that I'm looking for right now? And is this worth the investment? And that's really the way that we've designed this to make it as relevant and pertinent to you in that demo.
Awesome. Any pointers? And obviously I'm not trying to get any insights there, like LinkedIn or email, any experiences that your team can share or works, or is it a combination? Or
hey, I would just say to try everything and see what sticks. I mean, what I would say that we've done, I think, quite well is we have moved really fast and just trying a bunch of different areas. Not all of them have succeeded, and that's impacted, month over month. We are constantly iterating on new product development and adding to our product line. And then also in addition to that, really trying and testing cold outreach with that to see what is going to most, increase our response rate and so forth, and then book demos. We LinkedIn, cold, phone calls, email outreach. We've even done a lot of account-based marketing too, where we're based in Salt Lake City. We've just this last month, we did an awesome campaign with our marketing team where we actually took out about 60 cakes over the course of 6 days. And it was a personally designed branded cake with a QR code that took them to our website with a pitch and a link to book a demo. And as we've done that account-based marketing, it's been really effective just in terms of getting demos, and a lot of those, resulting in deals with brands that we were reaching out to on LinkedIn and email that we got no responses from. And as soon as we got that face-to-face, very personalized approach, we moved forward really quickly and got a deal closed. So we have tried everything under the sun, and we will continue to do so. But I would just, recommend for anyone doing outbound, really just try everything.
Very cool. So there was a cake with a QR code on top of the cake. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So it was a cake with the brand's name and logo kind of designed on top with a QR code that took them to the website. And so it was quite the project from our marketing team to put together, but was really quite effective.
So your marketers need to have some baking skills as well.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
Very good. Appreciate that. No, very cool. So, appreciate you giving that insight. Let's move on a little bit. So we talked about, the product. We talked about how you guys thinking about growth. I would love to, learn a little bit more about your journey, right? Within the product, and I have a couple of rapid fire questions to wrap up today's interview. You ready for those?
Yeah, of course.
So first question would be, what's the last book that you personally read when it comes to the sort of sales and growth?
Oh, that's a great question.
Podcast. Which podcast listen to?
I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, and I've read a lot of his stuff. He has a book called Start With Why. I read it, a number of years ago, and I just kind of revisited it recently, and that has been one that I've been really hyper focused on, in the sense of it's like our goal is to work with brands that are focused on growth, that are really honed into, they understand their demographic, they understand what they're trying to build and what they try to grow. And it's been really helpful. I love Simon Sinek's perspective in the sense of it's like branding is so key and so important. And as I've studied branding and tried to help better understand that, that's really helped from a sales perspective. I mean, essentially we're consultants, how can we help you achieve your goals as a brand? And that's been one that I've really loved.
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Good question. There's two things. One is revenue. That'll always be a top focus for us. We just always want to add new customers. And actually the main reason I would say that is the feedback loop. As we get really valuable customers, our product improves drastically as they provide feedback, because essentially, we're working in data. I always tell our customers, I believe that we have barely scratched the surface. We're maybe using 10 or 15% of the total capacity of the data we're scraping. It's millions of rows every single day. We just want to understand how e-commerce leaders want it presented, how they want it organized, how it can be most actionable. And so as we add customers, we're just getting more and more feedback. And basically every aspect of our product in the software, when you're in it, I can basically point to a specific feature and tell you which customer is the reason we built that, which I really love. And that kind of leads right into the second part, which is product iteration. In the sense of our goal is to become an e-commerce founder's best friend. We want to be the central single source of truth for external competitor data, for internal data. So we've built a ton of integrations with Shopify, Facebook ads. We do some attribution, we do inventory planning, we do more general macro market research. And we are constantly, iterating and building out the product suite to see what will provide the most value to these e-commerce founders, rather than just sticking to that competitor data. And so we've moved really fast, and I just love the desires of our engineers to continue to find solutions to those problems.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, right, what would you fix for your role in sales for the product?
Oh man, that is quite the question. With no boundaries in technology. So I think one of the biggest things that we have found is, as we are amassing this database, there's so much value that we're driving. One of the biggest problems that we face is every single brand categorizes and stores their data differently. So I'll just give an example. Skims, which is the Kim Kardashian shapewear brand, an awesome brand. They've been growing just like crazy recently. Skims has a unique color convention for every single one of their colors. So instead of having a color like black, they call their color black onyx, and so forth for every color down the road. Every single brand has, Lululemon classifies their leggings as pants. And so all of these unique classifiers and tags, one of the biggest challenges that we're trying to solve is saying, hey, how can we provide so much value if we can actually create a universal system for tagging, kind of similar to the way that Shopify has done it, in the sense of there are specific product categories, and within that there are terms and conditions. And we're trying to find a solution to take, we're tracking 150,000 brands that have 1,500 SKUs on their website with sales data every single day. How can we essentially build out a system that's going to tag and organize this to make it so that our customers can search across all of e-commerce at once to say, I know there are 10 brands that I understand and I know about. What about the other 50 brands that I've never heard of that are selling similar products that might be growing insanely fast? And how can I learn from them? And so that's, there's definitely some technology limits. It's definitely been posed a challenge, but I believe, we're in the path to solve that. And I think that's one barrier of technology that we're trying to remove.
Very cool. For the very last question, I'd like to do a bit of time travel. Let's go to back to your days of Brigham Young University, right?
Okay.
So basically, or maybe just in general, right? For your path in sales and business development. So you've been in interesting roles with Lewis and other interesting companies. What would be the one advice you would give yourself for that journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right after college, I actually worked for a company called Slack. That's a communication.
We might have heard about it.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Slack. If there's any questions there, I would highly recommend for any communication tools. Slack is an awesome tool. That was an awesome experience. And but the biggest takeaway that I had there was as a company grows, it's a large publicly traded company. I was there through the acquisition from Salesforce and so forth. And just as you grow to that level, it just adds a lot of, your role gets more and more refined. You're focused on such a specific small segment of the market, such a small piece of the technology. And I learned so much and loved my experience there. But one of the main reasons I joined Loose right as I took our seed round of funding. So I was one of the first, 5 or 6 employees. And what I've loved most about it is being in a place where you wear so many hats and you learn so much about engineering and dev. You learn so much about sales and revenue and marketing, and you're trying so many strategies that it has been, the last 9 months for me here at Loose have been more valuable than my college education in some ways, just because of the rate at which I've learned. So, in marketing or in sales and development or engineering as well, I think there is a ton of value on both sides of the coin. I would just recommend to everybody, as find a technology or a space that you really care about and are passionate about. And for me, I've loved e-commerce, and, find a way that you can get into on the ground floor, really just get your hands dirty, because it's the rate at which you learn and grow is just rapid. So that would probably be my biggest piece of advice to my former self and to anyone interested in a similar career path.
Very cool. Jacob, I really appreciate you joining Pathwing Presents today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lucas. Have a good one.